imagine this. You're 6 years old and you can't get over the fact that when you grow up and go to your graduation, you might trip and fall and everybody's going to laugh at you. Or your 4-year-old just learned how to skate, but they're worrying about the hospital bills that surely will come when they break a leg because they're going to join a hockey team. Or when you haven't seen someone in a long time, and the one thing you remember about them from your childhood is the time in PE when you kicked a kickball across the gym and kicked their front tooth out. And you just hope that that's not the thing that they remember about you. Yeah, that oddly specific thing was me. Apparently I kicked somebody's tooth out. But she's fine now, it's okay. Sometimes we worry about the weirdest things. In today's lesson of Traveling Light, the series we've been in for the past few weeks, we're talking about the burden of worry. Can everybody say worry? Now, first, let's give credit where credit's due. This message is based on a book called Traveling Light by Max Lucado. I may even, from time to time, use phrases straight from the book. If this topic interests you, feel free to look the book up on Amazon, or we even have a couple copies in the back if you want to check that out. Now, back to worrying. What if somehow, some way, one of the toddlers in the nursery that I'm in charge of get a hold of some Sharpies and start to color on the walls? Or when I'm at kids camp with a room full of boys and it's nighttime, they're supposed to be going to bed and they won't be quiet and they're all fighting each other because they just want to sleep, and I say, it's time to go to bed, be quiet. And so I go back to my bed, and then all of a sudden, it's too quiet. Start to worry. Or when I'm preaching a message on a Wednesday night, and the youth members start to get out their phones and take a picture of me, each one of them, time after time, taking a picture of me, and then I have to wait until the end of the message to find out what was so important and why they needed to take a picture of me and to figure out what they posted. Full of worry. So, I know I'm making light of the situations that sometimes they actually feel worse than what I'm talking about. But if a 6-year-old actually came up to you and said, I am afraid that when I'm older, I won't get my driver's license. I'm not going to be able to pass the test. Lucado states, you're too young to worry about those things. When the time comes, you'll know what to do. Fortunately, most kids don't have those kinds of thoughts. They don't have those kinds of worries. But unfortunately, we as adults have more than our fair share. Worry is a burlap bag of burdens. It's overflowing with what ifs and hows. What if it rains at my wedding? How will I know when to discipline my kids? What if I marry a guy who snores? How will I pay for our baby's tuition? What if after all my dieting, they learn that lettuce is fattening and chocolate isn't? The burlap bag of worry, cumbersome, chunky, unattractive, scratchy, hard to get a handle on, irritating to carry, and impossible to give away. No one wants your worries, not even you, Lucado states. Now, worry divides the mind. The biblical word or Greek word for worry is merimna. It's a compound word of two Greek words, merizo, to divide, and nous, the mind. How worry works is it divides the mind from what you need to be focusing on currently and gives you the anxiety of what's to come. Whether it be tomorrow that you're focusing on, next week, or even next year's, it doesn't belong in the here and now. You can worry yourself to death, into sickness, high blood pressure, migraines, headaches. All these things could come up. In Matthew 6:27, Jesus asks, can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And the answer is simple. It's no. All the extra worry is for nothing. It doesn't matter how much you worry, it won't add to your life. Now, speaking of extra worry, I may have given someone this week a little bit of extra worry coming into today. Julie, you want to come up here? Because, see, a couple days ago I asked Julie to be a volunteer, and I didn't tell her anything of why I needed her on stage. I just asked her to come up here and be a volunteer. So, are you a little bit worried about what's going to happen right now?
A little bit.
A little bit. How about now?
Maybe a lot.
Maybe a lot. Okay. So, Julie, I just want you to know that this is what I have for you. All that extra worry was for nothing. You had nothing to worry about. You go ahead. No problem, Julie. So, that extra worry that she had, how can she deal with that? How can a person deal with anxiety? You might try, as Lucado says, that one guy did. He worried so much that he decided to hire someone to do his worrying for him. He found a man who agreed to be his hired worrier for a salary of $200,000 a year. After the man accepted the job, his first question to his boss was, "Where are you going to get the $200,000 from?" His boss replied, "That's your worry." Worry isn't something that you can just hand off, but you can overcome it. In Psalms 23, 2 and 3, we know these verses well. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Now, let's try those verses again, but let's try to emphasize on one word in there. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. God leads us. He leads us. He isn't behind us. He isn't one step ahead, giving us directions like a GPS, turn left, turn right, go up the hill. But unlike when you get redirected by a GPS because you didn't understand the directions that were given, God's direction is unmistakable. You just have to do it his way, which is one day at a time. Not going ahead of him, not going days ahead at a time. He wants to go ahead of you and sort those things out that mess you up. But you need to deal with the things that are here and now. He leads us. He tells us what we need to know when we need to know it. Sometimes we pick up things that we don't need to pick up. Now, I don't know, it's kind of small, but hopefully you can see this. So what is this? Yep, a bottle rocket is a firework, right? And now what is this? A lighter. And yes, it works. Now, some of you might say, the next gen pastor on the stage with a lighter and a firework, that worries me a lot. As it should. I'm going to refrain from that. But, now this is all fine and good, right? But what if I have this and the fire starts to get closer? Well, there it is. Starts to get closer to more fireworks. If I have this many fireworks in my hand, it starts to get scarier. Now, one wasn't that big of a deal. I think I could deal with the mess of one firework going off in the church, and it'd be okay. Probably wouldn't hurt someone. Probably. But if 5 went off at once, we might have some issues and some hospital visits. We need to do that with our worries. We don't need to stack them all together and hold them. We need to let them down and only deal with what we can. So, once I set that stack down, it was less dangerous because it was something that I could deal with. The one firework was fine. It didn't bug me to be holding that and the flame close to it, but 5, it did. Now, when we want to be out of danger of worrying about everything, we have to say the words, I won't worry about tomorrow. Try and say that with me. I won't worry about tomorrow. Drop the burlap sack, step away from the stack of fireworks. God promises to lead us and be a light to our feet, but not a crystal ball into our future. Can I have everyone stand with me for the reading of God's word? Not that this one is any more important than the rest of them, but I just wanted to do something with this afterwards. So, Hebrews 4:16. So let us come boldly to the throne of our gracious God. There we will receive his mercy, find grace to help us when we need it most. Okay, let's look at a different translation as well. Let us therefore boldly approach the throne of our gracious God, where we may receive mercy and in his grace find timely help. Now, on the count of 3, if you are able to, I want you to jump. 1, 2, 3, jump. Okay, you can sit down. So the reason why I did that, and the reason why did we just jump? Because that's what we're doing when we're putting more things on our plate than we should. We're jumping ahead of God's time. He doesn't want us to be a step ahead. God is always on time, so don't jump ahead. Now, I think back to a week or a week and a half-ish ago when I was at kids camp. I already told one story about it. I was at kids camp, and everywhere that I went, I carried a backpack with me. This backpack. So everywhere that I went, I carried a backpack. And I brought this backpack because I knew that I needed certain things for certain activities that we were going to do throughout the day. Now, I had my Bible for service, my towel for the beach, Band-Aids for injuries. I knew the schedule and where we were going to be when we were going to be there. Now, the boys would always ask me questions like, what are we doing next? Or the ever popular favorite, when's free time? But before we could leave the cabin, I would always have the here's the plan speech, giving them the opportunity to get what they needed for the activities. And at some points they would ask, Shad, can you put this in your bag? I know that I'm going to need it, but I don't need it right now, but I'll come get it from you later. And without fail, they'd come up to me and say, hey, I need the money you put in your bag. I'm back to get it, or a water bottle, or whatever it may have been. But just imagine, I'll pick on this one. Just imagine if Liam, on Monday afternoon, asks me, Pastor Shad, can you put this shirt in your bag? And I ask him, I say, what's this shirt for? And he says, oh, that's the shirt I'm going to wear on Friday when we go home. I'll come back when I need it. If each one of those boys, I only had 5 boys in my cabin, but if each one of those boys did, which I tried to pack this bag pretty full, If they did that, it would start ripping, it'd be bursting at the seams, full of the things that I didn't need to carry with me. Now, I thought of a funny one, especially dealing with camp and boys, which is, what if all my boys said, we're wearing our wet swim trunks to bed because we're going to use them tomorrow? And yeah, that probably happened somewhere in the cabin at some point. But we don't need those things until it's the right time. We don't need to let worry into our lives and weigh us down and be ripping us at the seams with something that doesn't even make sense to prepare for yet. I know God's provision is timely, so I can enjoy the present. Matthew 6:34 gives us a look at this. It says, give your entire attention to what God is doing right now. And don't get worked up about what may or may not happen tomorrow. God will help you deal with whatever hard things come up when the time comes. Lucado states, I don't know what I'll do if my husband dies. You will know when the time comes. I could never lead a church. There's too much that I don't know. You may be right, or you may just be wanting to know everything too soon. Could it be that God will reveal answers to you when the time comes? The key is this: meet today's problems with today's strength. Don't start tackling tomorrow's problems until tomorrow. You don't have tomorrow's strength yet. You simply have enough for today. Now, how many of you have ever went on a vacation? You went on a vacation, maybe it was far away, maybe it wasn't so far away. But when you went on that vacation, all of a sudden either you remembered or you got a phone call and something went wrong when you were gone back at your house. Maybe it's a little thing like you left the air conditioner on a little bit too low and now you're going to waste a bunch of money on energy. Or your neighbor calls and says a tree fell on your house while you're gone because it was a big storm. Now you're all worked up. You're gone, you're away. You're worried about what your house looks like and what state it's in. And you have all these questions for your neighbor, but they just can't seem to communicate with you properly. But you need to be back in order to see it and assess it yourself. Because you have all these questions that if you are not there and close to the worry, it'll never be solved. So if we're not close to the worry and we're far away from it, if we don't stay in today's worry and be close to it, we jump ahead till tomorrow. Now, Jesus put it simply like this in a different version of Matthew 6:34. And he said, so don't worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will have its own worries. Each day has enough trouble of its own. There's trouble every day. There's things that come up in your life that maybe you didn't think you were ever going to have to deal with. But if you're already jumping ahead to Wednesday's problem and it's only Sunday, how are you going to deal with Sunday's problems? Now, the words, I can't go on, I have nothing left, those are the words that will come out of your mouth if you keep trying to worry about all the things before they're happening. And some of you say, well, Mama didn't raise no quitter. Well, this will make you quit. You won't have enough strength. It doesn't matter how strong you think that you are. You don't have tomorrow's strength today. You will get the strength tomorrow. you will never have enough strength for the worries of tomorrow today. But what if, and how will I? God has the answers for you when you ask at the right time. If you're not jumping ahead, God will answer those questions for you. If you are in His time, He will be there. We have what we need in the moment if we trust in God.
Hey there, just wanted to take a minute to say thanks for watching. If a friend sent you this link, it's because they believe what we talked about today is going to make a positive impact in your life. And if it did, there's probably somebody that you care about who could benefit from it. So take a minute to share this video with somebody. Post it to your timeline or send them a direct link. And if you're able, take a minute to give using the link at the bottom of the description on this video. One last thing. Maybe you feel a tug at your soul and you're ready to take the next step in your spiritual life and form a relationship with God. We've got folks here who would love to talk with you about it. So just text prayer to the number on your screen and we'll follow up with you. It's also in the description on this video in case that helps. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time.